And meteorologist Mike Seidel with a look at conditions there. Mike?
Okay, Chris, today we started out at the lakefront. Well, almost to the lakefront. Want to show you what it looked like. We couldn't get out right to the beach because the parking lot was drifted over. They had officially shut the parking lot out at Holland Beach State Park, and this is what we had. I was out there. We were out there, my crew, Matt Safer, Randy Flinders, for 4 hours, and it was pretty wild. Our wind gusts topped out just about 50 miles an hour, but they were sustained the entire time between 35 and 40 miles an hour. So we had a lot of blowing snow, drifting snow, heavy snow with these bands coming in. It was more lake enhanced, lake effect, and now we're going to see more lake effect from this point on. As far as snowfall totals, we haven't gotten any updates around this area of Holland. Last time we had was 6, was late morning, but we just got some in this evening. Stevensville, they've been racking up the snowfall. That's down south of here, down towards Benton Harbor, 11 inches. Then you go up north near Traverse City, northeast of Lake Ann, 18, and Honor, Michigan, near Honor, Michigan, 16 inches. So as you go up to northern Michigan, approaching the UP, you've got a foot and a half of snowfall. Meanwhile, as far as the roads go, they're snow-packed, snow-covered, and under the road, under the surface rather, there's a solid sheet of ice and snow that froze when we had the flash freeze yesterday between about 5 and 6 p.m. Now, the blizzard warning continues for Benton Harbor down to South Bend until 1 p.m. Saturday. You can see the blowing snow right now on camera. And the blizzard warning for the rest of us here on the west coast of Michigan goes until 7 p.m. The winds tonight will still gust between 40 and 50 miles an hour. Heavy snow at times. On the radar, you can see the squalls coming in all the way from South Bend all the way up to Traverse City. And then tomorrow, still more snow expected. The winds will slowly go down, but it's going to take a while. Even tomorrow afternoon, expect gusts upwards of 35 miles an hour. So it's not going to just drop off, but it will be a little bit less windy tomorrow. Snowfall, additional snowfall we're expecting here in these snow belts, up to 10 more inches of snow. It's all powder, so it adds up very quickly. And because it is powder, it just blows very easily. I-94, Chris, had a lot of accidents this morning down in southern Michigan, and they have been cleaned up. And right now, it's just a snow-packed and slippery road surface, but 94 is open. And 196, which goes right down the lakefront, I know it's been very tough driving, but they have not closed that, and that's some good news. But bottom line is, Chris, we were at the lakefront today. A lot of folks came out there to try to get to the beach. They couldn't, and many got stuck. And one woman actually said, I said, how are you doing? And her response, Chris, was, I'm an idiot. That was what she said. I didn't disagree.
Well, sometimes a little self-awareness is important with times like this. Hey, Mike, you got a second here? I got a few questions for you.
I've got all the time in the world for you, Chris. Go ahead.
Mike, I was hoping you'd say that. I know you've been in this business for quite some time, in the winter weather business. And as we look at this particular storm and then another one moving into, and that really overnight last night in the Pacific Northwest, SeaTac shut down for a while, what you're seeing right there, and the timing of this. Can you put this into perspective based on your experience, what you've seen with what we're dealing with this leading up to the holidays, or just the extent of the storm across the U.S.? What's your thought beyond where you are there in Holland, Michigan?
Well, certainly it's an air mass that has affected just about the entire country. Some of the coldest air in years. The only spot that's avoided the cold weather and the place to be for Christmas is the Phoenix, the Tucson area, southwest Southern California. But the Arctic air mass is huge, as I mentioned, and it's not only huge, but it's going all the way down into the Florida Keys. A lot of times, the Keys, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, South and Southwest Florida miss the chill, but we're forecasting temperatures down to freezing, Tampa and Orlando, into the mid-40s in Miami and into the mid-50s in Key West. So nobody really escapes the cold except for that one area I mentioned out in the Southwest. The other thing is how quickly the temperatures fell, leading to flash freezes, as we saw with Dave Malkoff last night. I mean, it went from rain to snow, from low 40s to the upper 20s in a matter of minutes. So some of these temperature falls have been setting records for 1 hour and certainly for 24 hours. So just an amazing air mass how quickly the temperatures fell and how ruthless these wind chills have been. Luckily for us, because of the moderation of the lake, Chris, our temperature has not gone below 5 or 6. And the wind chills right now about 15 below. That's about as cold as it's gotten. So we're a little bit more fortunate. Right now, we're really concerned, I think, with Buffalo. I think that's going to be really an epic story as we get through tomorrow into Christmas Day. It's just getting underway, and they've had winds gusting to 70 miles an hour.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, always appreciate your perspective.
Yes, indeed. The lake is the reason we have the lake effect snow. We had lake enhancement. Now it's pure lake effect. We're in between squalls. We just had another one in the past 15 minutes, and the visibility really drops down quickly. You can see down the road. You can see about 3 blocks right now, but moments ago you couldn't even see to the next street. So this is what's going on, and we're going to have these snow squalls, these bands throughout tonight into Saturday. We're looking for another 10 inches of snow in this area, in the snow belts, generally from 131 west to the lakefront. By the way, 94 is open. Power outages in Michigan, not as bad as some states. We've got about 23,000 customers without power, but here on the west coast in the snow belts, very few, if any. Right now in Ottawa County, believe it or not, I just checked, just 1 customer without power. Hopefully they'll get their power back on. It may not even be related to the weather. As far as flight cancellations tomorrow at nearby Grand Rapids, Gerald Ford International, it looks like, based on counting up the percentages and looking at everything, about 2/3 of the flights right now have been canceled today. As far as I can tell, everything was wiped out. It was just very poor driving and flying with the visibility. Most of the day, a quarter mile or less because of the gusty winds. And you can see what it was like this morning out at the lakefront. We couldn't get right out to the lake because of the blizzard and the parking lot being closed and drifted over. But look at the wind and the snow. Photographer and sometimes meteorologist Matt Safer shot this video this morning. We were out there from 9 to 1, and it was a real wild scene. The real issue was folks coming out to try to get to the lakefront to see the waves, and they got stuck. A lot of folks got stuck, and that was the case in many areas. So tonight we've got the snowpacked, snow-covered roads. Winds will gust to over 40 through tonight into tomorrow afternoon, and then by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, winds will begin to back off. We'll keep you updated from here in Holland, Michigan. Let's go back to Kansas City. Jackie, I saw your high today was a balmy 10 above 0. You're lucky. Our high only got up to about 6.
So that was at the airport.
But well, and nobody lives, well, some people may be living at the airport these days. So there you go.
So they're about a degree or 2 warmer than we were downtown. So I'm just saying, you know, it was worse for us.
And it's right here in Holland, Michigan, where the Weather Channel's Mike Seidel has been reporting from. And I want to get the latest right now from Mike. And Mike, what have you noticed throughout the day in terms of snowfall as it's been going and as far as the winds go as well? Have you been able to discern if you've had any breaks in the snow?
Well, we do get some breaks because of the nature of lake effect and what we're seeing on the radar. It's kind of very cellular in appearance, looking on the radar on my phone. They're rolling in off the lake, these bands, but they're not solid bands. And this is going to continue into tomorrow. We've got the northwest wind over the relatively warmer waters of Lake Michigan. The water temperatures generally upper 30s and low 40s, and there's no ice cover to speak of. So therefore, the lakes are wide open. You get the lake effect. For instance, right now, it's not snowing very hard. We can actually see maybe 6 or 7 blocks down the street. In fact, this is the best visibility we've had in a long time. Winds consistently gusting over 30 and 40 miles an hour at the lakefront. Now, as we get into Saturday, the wind gust will slowly subside so that by Saturday afternoon and evening, the top gust will be, say, 30 to 35 miles an hour instead of 40 to 50 miles an hour. The blizzard warning here continues until 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Farther south, they're going to run that until 1 p.m. down in South Bend and over in Benton Harbor, South Bend, Indiana, and Benton Harbor, Michigan. Top snowfall totals are way up north, northern lower Michigan. We've got totals now 18 to 22 inches, 18 inches around Traverse City. Down here, we've topped at 11 inches in Stevensville. That's down between here and the areas around Benton Harbor. But we have not gotten an updated total from our co-op or NOAA co-op observer here in the town of Holland. Wind and snow continue. Airport cancellations tomorrow. It looks like about 2/3 of flights in and out of Grand Rapids are canceled. Better flying over in Chicago tomorrow, less wind, and no more dealing with de-icing and snow and ice. So, Chris, We're going to keep you updated from here. Look at the wind now blowing the snow once again. So when the wind blows, it picks up because the snow is so powdery. The ratios have got to be 20 to 25 to 1 because of the consistency of the snowfall. But even once the snow ends, we still get these ground blizzards that we've seen over the past week or so cause major interstate interruptions because of the visibility going down, even though no snow is falling. We had I-90 last week in South Dakota closed for 4 days with barely a flake falling, and today we've seen I-94 shut down. That was with snow and accidents, so a whole different world there. 94 now is open this evening, but again, snow-packed and snow-covered. Temperature now at 6 degrees, and today's temperatures, Chris, have either been 6 or 7. They have not fluctuated at all. It's been very isothermal and consistent.
And Mike, I know you, and I know the fact that wherever you are, you've kind of got your pulse on what's going on across the United States. And I'm curious, I also know you've covered so many different types of storms and winter events. When you look at this particular one, is there anything that has surprised you? I know that might be tough, but is there anything perhaps that has been standing out to you since the storm started?
Not really. It's all gone as forecasted. Strong winds, a bomb cyclone, lake effect, cold temperatures. In fact, this air mass and this cold outbreak and pattern change was forecasted a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how cold it was going to be the week before Christmas, and then about a week to 10 days ago, the storm started showing up on the map. The only thing that has changed over the past 4 or 5 days is we didn't get a big synoptic scale snowfall, say in Minneapolis or Chicago. That was up in Canada. But everything else is pretty much fallen into place. I think the big concern now is what they end up with in Buffalo. They've already got a foot of snow, and they've got the snow and the wind, and it's going to continue into Christmas Day. That wind fetch, that fetch will wind that direction is almost perfect for the city of Buffalo getting buried. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on as we go through Saturday and Saturday night through Christmas Eve to see how much snow ends up falling in the Buffalo metro area.
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel reporting there live from Holland, Michigan. Always appreciate your perspective and insight. Standing in the snow all day, seems like all day, every day. Meteorologist Mike Seidel joins us live now from Holland, Michigan. Hello, Mike.
It seems that way recently. The blizzard last week in South Dakota, and now the blizzard here in southwest lower Michigan. This is the lake effect area, and that's what we're going to get from this point on. We had lake enhancement and lake effect today. We've had upwards of 22 inches, just checking some of the latest snowfall totals. Jordan, Michigan. This is way up north in the northern part of lower Michigan, 22. How about Bel Air, 15. Gaylord's had 20 inches. And Honor, Michigan, 16 inches of snow. These are all communities way up north from Traverse City off to the east and north. Down here, we've had about 10 inches. East Grand Rapids did check in recently with 9 inches. But as far as the total here, hard to measure. I don't know how they took these measurements anywhere because of the wind and all the blowing snow. That's going to continue to be an issue. Blizzard warning is up until 7 p.m. tonight for most of the west coast of Michigan. Along with the gusty winds, over 40 miles an hour tonight, the blowing snow. Additional snowfall tonight and tomorrow in this area, about 10 inches. But we'll notice the winds tomorrow afternoon and evening slowly dropping off. By this time tomorrow, the gusts should be more around 30 miles an hour versus 40 to 45 miles an hour. So improving weather, and for Christmas Day, the snow ends, and it will still be cold. In fact, by the end of next week, before we bring in the new year, we're forecasting temperatures here back to 50 as we warm up the areas that are so cold today, tonight, and tomorrow. More coverage on this storm and the West Coast storms coming up.
We want to get out to Holland, Michigan, and meteorologist Mike Seidel. And Mike, we've got a very long way to go here. Those blizzard warnings up in that area for almost a full day yet.
Yes, and they've been up since 4 p.m. yesterday. You can see the wind blowing the snow here, not as excessive as it was this morning at the lakefront. We do have a little protection here about 4 miles inland. Speaking of the lakefront, let's go out there. Matt Safer shot this video. This is about 10 a.m. this morning. Winds were gusting nearly 50 miles an hour, sustained at one point to tropical storm force, which is 39 miles an hour. Visibility at times basically zero, and I don't think it really got above maybe 50 or 60 yards the entire 4 hours we were out there. Combine that with wind chills in the mid-teens and temperatures at 6 or 7. By the way, those numbers have not changed all day long. Snowfall total so far, top numbers way up in northern Michigan. Traverse City, those areas across the northern part of Michigan. I think you figured that out by now. 18 to 22 inches. East Grand Rapids has had 9 inches. That's the main city here, just off to the northeast by about 30 miles. We haven't gotten the latest report here from Holland area, but Carl, it's been tough to measure the snow. As you can see, whoa, see what happens when the wind blows? It just picks up this powder and blows it everywhere. So we're going to have the winds and snow blowing overnight tonight into tomorrow. The winds will slowly back off later tomorrow and tomorrow night. We're still looking at another potential 10 inches of snow here in these snow belt areas. By the way, they average 69 inches of snow a year here in Holland, and Grand Rapids going into this was already twice their average at just over 40 inches, Carl. So quite a storm, a long way to go, but Christmas Day will be much tamer with less wind. Still cold, but no more snow.
And Mike, there's a real lesson there about snow to liquid ratios. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. You know, the general rule of thumb is 1 inch of liquid equals 10 inches of snow. So if you have a rain gauge and you catch the snow and you melt it down 10 to 1. Now, that's with temperatures about 32 degrees, but as you get colder, the ratio increases. Last week in Sturgis, South Dakota, in that blizzard, it was 24 to 1 because it was so dry and powdery, temperatures in the mid-teens. Right now, we're at 5 or 6, so the snow ratio is probably higher. We've got snow ratios out here at least 25, maybe 30 to 1. So you've got to melt it down, and I've been noticing the amounts at Grand Rapids Airport. They're very small amounts when you melt it down. So you've got high snow ratios, powder snow, 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, the perfect prescription for blowing and drifting, which will continue through Saturday into Saturday evening, and then much better driving weather on Sunday. Carl?
All right, Mike, thank you so much. A really tough night out there in southwestern lower Michigan. Want to get out now to meteorologist Mike Seidel. He's in Holland, Michigan. And Mike, I know you've covered many, many storms. I'm wondering, where this sort of ranks in terms of early season cold outbreaks for you.
It's a pretty cold outbreak, and it's widespread. As we know, the only part of the country that's not going to get cold is like Phoenix and those areas, up around 65 to 70 the next couple of days. But as far as ranking, I can rank how it felt this morning, how it looked on TV, and certainly in one of the top 4 or 5 storms I've covered in various locations. One that sticks out in my memory was the Duluth blizzard. This occurred on February 29th, 2012, Leap Day, and we were on the lakefront with winds gusting over 50 miles an hour for 5 or 6 hours and whiteout conditions. The big difference with that one, Carl, was the temperature was running about 30 or 31 degrees. Temperatures during this one, 6 or 7. That's where we've been all day, and it has not changed. The wind chills have been pretty much right around 15 below zero. So that's one of the storms. I remember another one, several, up in Plymouth, Massachusetts, during that winter about 6 years ago where they had 110 inches. We had a couple out in Plymouth that were just raging blizzards. So this one was right in there as far as how cold, the visibility, and the fluff factor. Except for the Duluth, there was no fluff factor there. We're talking about the combination of dry air, cold air, and the moisture. So the usual 10 to 1 ratio drops back to about 20 to 25 to 1. So you got a lot more snow and less precipitation, Carl. So that's what we've been dealing with. And we're going to deal with the blowing snow and snow right on through Saturday. Could see another 5 to 10 inches in these snow belts. And then by Christmas Day, things will be easing off snowfall-wise and wind-wise, thankfully, because it's been very windy and gusty since the Arctic front blew through here yesterday about 6 and we had the flash freeze. Carl?
Mike, just an incredible storm. Thank you so much for your coverage. We really appreciate it.